Okay. Hello, this is Koen Timmis. I'm based in Belgium, and my organization DAC has been launching the Climate Action Project during the past week. And what we try to do is unite as many teachers and students globally and trying to make sure that they are able to share findings, but also solutions and actions with each other at one central point at the one website. And that brings us to our subject today, which is climate and education. And I'm absolutely delighted we will be interviewing Dr. Jane Goodall. So Jane, hi. What would
Hi,
be,
Koen.
hi, what would be your advice for the teachers?
Well, I think my advice to teachers is, be flexible. And right now we're going through pretty dark times. And I think most students, at least when they're, older than about 10, they're going to want to talk about what's happening. And so right now is a very crucial time when we need good teachers to be able to give young people encouragement and confidence. And of course, it's also a time when virtual learning and subjects that can be shared over the internet becomes more and more important. And probably that in itself will be useful long after this epidemic, because it will help teaching in those places where children don't get opportunities for good schooling.
Yeah. What are some simple things students and even teachers can do to take action for climate?
Well, one of the important things is trying to find ways to heal some of the harm we've inflicted and to slow down climate change, because, to some extent, we brought it on ourselves. Just like the pandemic, we have utterly disrespected nature and disrespected animals. And that disrespect has led to the COVID-19, a zoonotic disease. We've created environments where it's relatively easy for a pathogen like a virus, like COVID-19, to jump from an animal to a person, like the wildlife meat markets where animals from all over are sold for food, for pets, for medicine, and the bushmeat markets in Africa, and the international pet trade, and also our factory farms where animals are kept in unhygienic, cruel conditions.
Mm.
And then we will come through this pandemic, and then we're just right up against the crisis which is ongoing now all through the pandemic, which is the climate crisis. And again, it's our disrespect of nature, this absurd feeling that we can continue to have unlimited global economic development on a planet with finite natural resources. And we're already using those up faster in some places than nature can replenish them. So what can people do? Well, there's a big move now for planting trees, because trees are absorbing CO2 from the atmosphere. Protecting forests and existing trees is right now very, very important, because it's going to take the trees we plant time to get big enough to do their job. But it's important to start now. And cleaning up the ocean, that's another thing. People can fight the use of single-use plastic and other things that pollute the ocean, and have beach cleanups if there's a beach, but river cleanups is just as important, because the river swishes everything down. And, the great thing about teaching or being with or talking to the university students, the high school students, they have so many ideas as to what they can do. It's unbelievable. If children understand the problem and you empower them to take action, to talk, you listen to them, they come up with fantastic ideas themselves. And that's something, again, for teachers to set up situations where you can talk to and listen to and encourage the young people to share their ideas.
Yeah. So we all know you as a world-renowned primatologist, but you're so much more than that. You also created Roots and Shoots, which we are really happy and delighted we've been able to work with you with the Innovation Labs and Pugu and Kikoma. But would you mind elaborating a little bit on Roots and Shoots' mission and vision?
You'd have a hard job to stop me doing that, because Roots and Shoots is literally my passion.
Okay.
And it began in 1991 with 12 high school students who were concerned about the dynamiting of coral reefs, of illegal dynamite fishing, which was destroying the coral reefs. Why weren't the government prosecuting poachers killing animals in the national park? Why was nobody doing more for the homeless children who were sniffing glue on the streets? All of these different things. And so I told them to go and get their friends who had similar concerns. And we had a meeting, and out of that meeting, Roots and Shoots was born. Main message: each one of us makes some impact on the planet every single day, all of us. And some of us can really make ethical choices about what we buy. Where did it come from? How was it made? Did it harm the environment? Is it cheap because of child slave labor or inequitable wages in some other country? Was it cruel to animals? We can ask those questions. People living in abject poverty simply have to do whatever they can to stay alive. And so solving poverty is tremendously important. We got that right from the start. And of course, in Tanzania, there's a lot of abject poverty. And then with Roots and Shoots, we decided from the beginning, because everything is interconnected, that each group would choose between them. They would choose, unless they were very small and they need guidance, but one project to help people, one project to help animals, one project to help the environment, or one big project that covers all three. And it's just been amazing. That little group of 12 high school students has now turned into I call it a movement that's in more than 65. It's in more than 65 countries, and it's growing all the time. And we've got hundreds and thousands of young people from kindergarten through university making change every day. And we've also got what I call the alumni, all those who've been through the program in school or university, and somehow they retain the values that they acquired during their time with the Roots and Shoots. And by the way, Roots and Shoots, think of a big, beautiful tree, probably began as a little seed. You could have picked it up then and it would have seemed small and insignificant. But those little roots to reach the water can work through rocks and eventually push them aside. And that little shoot to reach the sunlight can work through cracks in a brick wall and eventually knock it down. So we see the rocks and the walls as all the problems we humans have inflicted on the planet. And it's a message of hope. Hundreds and thousands of young people together can solve these problems, but they need guidance, especially when they're young.
So, do you think that education, formal education, has to change, and in what way? And maybe is there a message to the ministers of education globally?
I think people, particularly teachers, and particularly in some countries, are understanding that there really is a need for change. And one of the changes which I always push for is spending more time outside, spending more time in nature. Once we realized that the pandemic was caused by disrespect of nature to some extent, destroying the environment, pushing animals in closer contact with people. And so once we realized that, then children need to learn to respect and understand nature. And looking at a book is all very well, but especially for small children, being out there, see their eyes light up when they discover something for themselves. It makes all the difference in the world. And I think, your Innovation Labs is encouraging the young people to go out into the forest, which is near them in Tanzania, and find out for themselves. And it's really changing them. And if we don't have young people today grow up to be good stewards of the planet, we may as well all give up.
Yeah. So students who will entering school right now, they will leave it in 15 years. What would be your hope for them, for those kids?
Well, I'm hoping, we do have some roots and shoots schools where the ethic of roots and shoots is built into every single part of the curriculum. And I can't expect that that's going to happen everywhere, but it maybe something like it, so that environmental education will be built into and woven into the ethic of the schools. And so young people going into school now, honestly, it's going to depend on where they go, because there are some countries or parts of a country where teachers simply, they don't have the imagination, they haven't had the training, they just go by the book. And kids get bored. They totally get bored. So it's teacher workshops. We do a lot of that, and working with teachers and inspiring teachers. Because if you're not inspired, how do you inspire your students? So what do I hope for the children going into school now? That if they don't have inspiring teachers, they can go online and find inspiring teachers there. And that's what I hope. But I'd like to know, Koen, what do you feel about this?
When there was Corona at the very beginning, I felt like this is going to decrease the gap between people. But now it more feels like it is increasing the gap. And I'm a bit concerned about how all of this I felt that climate was changing because of COVID. Um, but I also see that people sometimes have other priorities. And I really hope that we will find a way to bring everybody closer together. Because I also know that you travel a lot of days a year, like 300, and you meet a lot
300.
of, yeah, no, isn't that?
300, it was
Yeah,
before lockdown, yes.
yeah. So I really wonder how this affects your life and how you still, because I know that many teachers struggle with teaching online, and I would love to know, Jane, how this affects you, how you still would love to inspire without able to travel to those people.
Well, when I was first I say grounded here, luckily I was here. I was nearly grounded in Abu Dhabi. Fortunately, I'm here with all my things. And first I was frustrated and angry. And then I thought, well, that's not helping anybody. So I and a small team got to work to create a virtual Jane. And that virtual Jane is on Zooms and webinars and Skypes, giving out video messages, opening conferences, making speeches, um, doing interviews, writing articles, and of course, millions and millions of emails. And the hardest thing for me has been, giving a talk in an auditorium with thousands of people. There's an excitement in the air, an energy. Now I've got to learn, have had to learn to give a talk that will inspire, looking at that stupid little green spot on the top of a laptop, which is a camera lens, and trying to imagine all the people listening. And apparently it's working. People have said, yeah, we were inspired, it's okay. But gosh, it's not easy at all. But anyway, that's how I'm spending my time. And I don't have any spare time at all, except at lunchtime. I take the dog for a walk. I sit under my favorite tree when I was a child, and I call my little friend who's a robin, And the robin comes every day and I sing to the robin, and sometimes the robin sings back to me.
That's wonderful. So thank you so much for this, Dr. Jane Goodall. Do you have some final words for our audience?
Well, I think the most important words I've already said, but I will say them again. And that's that every single one of us matters and has a role to play. Some people don't yet know their role. What we do every day does make a difference. Just me picking up a plastic bag or 10 in a day wouldn't make any difference, but we now know it's happening everywhere. And so this saying, think globally, act locally, is the wrong way round. Because honestly, today, if you think globally, you get depressed, you can't help it. But if you say, well, what can I do here and now? Yeah, I can clean a stream, I can pick up trash, I can recycle, I can raise money to help refugees in a far off country. It's all kinds of things that people can do. And so I think this message that what you do actually does matter is a very, very important thing to think about every single day. Because it's people feeling helpless and hopeless that leads to apathy. And apathy will be the end of all of us.
Thank you so much.